This is the plaintiff, Barry Glynn. He says he was driving down the interstate minding his own business when kerhowie, a huge chunk of ice came flying off the defendant's truck, striking his windshield, splintering it. He pulled up next to the truck. The driver ignored him. The defendant refuses to pay the cost of a new windshield, and he's suing in the name of justice for the $367.91 he's owed. This is the defendant, Danny Young. He says his trucks have a tracking system on them, and the plate number the plaintiff gave shows the truck was not in that area the day of this so-called ice incident. The guy doesn't have any insurance. He thinks he'll just pay it to make him go away, but he's here fighting for his justice today and refuses. He's accused of giving the guy a cold shoulder.
All parties, please at your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says he was driving on the interstate when all of a sudden a huge chunk of ice flew off the defendant's truck and slammed into his car, damaging it. The defendant is saying this guy is making it up because it didn't happen. It's the case of giving somebody the cold shoulder.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Glynn, tell me what happened to you. You are driving on December 18th on I-95. What time?
It was approximately 9:15 in the morning because I was going to a doctor's appointment in the VA hospital at 10.
Okay, and what happens?
As I'm driving, I thought it was about to snow or something was happening because my windshield wipers went on. And then I realized I had a truck next to me that looked more like a comet than a truck because things were just flying off of it. So I backed my car up a little bit so that the windshield wipers would go off. And all of a sudden, a large piece of ice slid off and came into my lane and hit my windshield.
Okay. What did you do?
Well, first of all, I was shocked. I tried to pull up next to the driver, and I was honking and pointing to my window just to try to get his attention. He looked at me and then basically looked back at the road. I said, oh, this is going to be a problem. So I pulled over behind the truck, and I wrote down the name that I saw on the truck and the license plate number.
All right. Let me ask you this. When do you contact Quality Roofing?
Probably the next day.
In your complaint, here's what you say. In your complaint, you say, a week later, I went and told the defendant that as I was driving between exit 45 and 44, a piece of ice flew off of one of his trucks and hit my car. Why do you say a week later if it was the next day?
I called the next day. A week later, I physically went there. I thought this was going to be a fairly simple matter.
All right, Mr. Young, you're the owner of Quality Roofing, right?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
All right, when do you first learn of any of this?
The message that I got is that it happened at 1:45 p.m. on December 18th.
Okay, and who gave you that message saying it was 1:45 p.m.?
That's what the receptionist told me when we got the call from Mr. Glynn.
Okay, did you ever tell the receptionist, Mr. Glynn, that it was at 1:45 that it happened?
No, I think what he's saying is at the time in the afternoon after the doctor's appointment, and I got back from the VA, that's the time that I initially called him. It's not when it happened.
I thought you said you called him the next day, and I thought you said in your complaint that you called him a week later.
Yeah.
All right, tell me, Mr. Young.
First I called
So how do you know where your trucks are? Tell me about the system that you have in place at your roofing company.
Okay, so we have a tracking system that is a satellite system that we can see where all our trucks are at all the time, at any given time.
Okay, when you say at any given time, does it generate a printout? And what causes a time to be logged? Ignition off, ignition on?
It pings every 3 or 4 minutes. So we get a page all day long, every 3 or 4 or 5 minutes that says where the truck is.
Okay. How do I know that the records you gave me are the records for the license plate in question?
We know it by the person that is assigned that vehicle.
And the person assigned that vehicle is someone by the first name of Omar, correct?
Correct.
And you have provided us with the GPS records from that day. So I'm looking at it. He had highlighted for me the times involving 145 because he says that's what you had told him, but it's fine. So let's look at 9:15, the time you say it happened, okay?
One entry I could see, like it looked like 11 o'clock. There's an entry above it. What is the time of that entry?
9:10?
Right. So between 9:10 and 11 o'clock, which is 2 hours, is ping every 3 minutes seem to have failed.
Either that or he's doing work, right? So at 9:10 on those records, Mr. Young, where is he?
At 9:10, he's on Route 1 in New Haven, which is on the East Haven, New Haven line at a car dealership.
Okay, and how do you know that? Because that's your client?
That's my client, and I have a copy of his daily report about where he was at any given time, yeah.
Okay, and how long was he at the dealership?
He said that he left it, according to the tracking system, he left the dealership at 9:13.
Now, I don't see a 9:13, I see an 11:13 is the next entry. Do you have something that says 9:13?
I do, yeah.
Okay, well then you've got a document I don't have. That's the one document I'm missing, is the one that's relevant. So here's what I need you to do. Are you able to scan it and send it to us?
Yes.
Or take a picture of it and send it? Okay, perfect. Can you do that now?
Okay, hold on just a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this is a mystery. The plaintiff swears this block of ice that flew off a truck was the defendant's truck, but the GPS shows that the defendant's truck wasn't even in the area at the time of the incident. Let's go back into the courtroom.
Okay, gentlemen, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Glynn, there's no smoking in court.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could see.
That's right. Okay. All right. Okay. I got to tell you, Mr. Young.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
You're a good man. Unfortunately, I often don't get that in litigation in front of me. You have now completed the circle. You thought that the thing we were discussing had happened at 1:45, but the plaintiff maintains that it happened at 9:15. Can I ask you a question? Did you ever send the plaintiff any of these records before today?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Okay. So then there's no way he would know, because even I didn't have this particular page. This particular page shows your guy on I-95 at 9:15, right?
Yes, it does, Your Honor.
Okay. Can I just ask you a question, Mr. Young? Where did you get the idea that it happened at 1:45? That was relayed to you through the secretary?
Yes, because that's when he called the office, and we thought that he was saying that that's when it happened.
That it just happened. All right.
Right. When the secretary told me that he had called, I said to tell him to turn it into his insurance company, and that if they wanted to, they would get in touch with our insurance company and handle it themselves. And then when he came to the office...
Well, he could do that, or he could just claim it against you. He can choose which way to go if he doesn't want... And it's a small amount. It's probably under the deductible.
And so he came to my office and said that this happened, and I said to him, I thought we made it clear that you should turn it into your insurance company, and they could, I'm not sure what the right word is, subjugate or whatever it is against us.
They do subjugate, but it's subrogate.
Subrogate, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's the only conversation that we had directly.
Okay, so what I'm looking at is this. There was some confusion between everyone on what the time was. If the time is 9:15, the printout that you helpfully gave us actually shows your driver there at 9:15. He's got the license plate number. He's got the truck number. Seems like an awful lot of effort to just pin it on any available truck. It's not a large amount. According to him, he is watching stuff come off the truck beforehand, and that's what's calling his attention to it. I think that he has sustained the burden of proof in a civil case, which is just by a preponderance of the evidence. And I'm going to find in his favor, $367.91, verdict for the plaintiff.
So the plaintiff prevails. He's going to get the $367. Mr. Young, the defendant, let me ask you, what do you think of the judge's decision?
I honestly think that she made the right decision. I didn't have the correct information in terms of when the accident happened. If I had known that it happened at the time that it happened, I would have seen it on my report and I would have paid Mr. Glynn.
Well, that's very good for you to say that. Did you By the way, did you ever talk to the driver? I guess he really didn't know what was going on, did he? Because they didn't communicate with each other.
No, he did not. I asked him. I did ask him if he knew of any such incident, and he told me no.
Okay, very good. I don't guess there's anything you can do to prevent that in the future, is there?
There really isn't. The trucks have ladders on top, and they have material in the back, and sometimes stuff like this happens. So I think it's very unfortunate. And again, if it wasn't for the time confusion, it would have been settled a long time ago.
Well, thank you very much. Very kind of you. All right, Mr. Glenn, you heard what he had to say. How do you feel about this? You feel satisfied now?
Yeah, I do think it was the right decision. There was no reason for me to make up a story. And I can see his confusion because he does have a GPS. And I'm familiar with that. I couldn't understand how a GPS would say that his vehicle was not there at the time.
All righty. Well, congratulations. You're going to get your money after all. And that'll do it for this case. So let's hear a little more conversation about the case from our judges, Judge Marilyn and her husband, Judge John, and another edition of After the Verdict.
Everything about this case, about the testimony and the evidence, seemed to indicate to you that the defendant, who was on the hook for the judgment, was an honest businessman, a reputable businessman, who really didn't have every fact and detail that he needed to resolve it and pay the claim.
I mean, we were all looking at 145, and because that was the only information that the defendant had given, and that's what he had highlighted. And if it weren't for the fact that the defendant was honest and said, wait a minute, there's a page missing in my stuff, let me send it to you, then he sends it to me, and it places him exactly there at 9:15. You know, I see so much heartache and animosity and vitriol as a judge, and I'm sure you did too in your time as a judge. It's always so nice when you hear litigants say, oh, yeah, no, now that I look at it, yeah, that's exactly what, and everybody's all in agreement.
You had honest people on both sides, and certainly the plaintiff didn't have something come through his windshield and come up with a mysterious neck injury or something that wasn't on the level. So, which is nice.
But, you know, there are laws in the Northeast that, you know, we just don't know about in South Florida and the tropics, but tell me about that.
Well,
you know.
in states like Connecticut, New Hampshire, I think Pennsylvania, New Jersey, there's a few states in the Northeast where it's such a common problem that ice and snow can fall off of a truck or a vehicle and cause damage or injury to someone else, that some of them have laws that provide for criminal fines and penalties, or even license suspensions on a second or subsequent offense.
So, but the theory that, oh, there's nothing we can do about this is completely incorrect. That's why they have criminal laws. Because there is something you can do. You have a responsibility to be taking it off of your car and brushing it off so that you don't cause this danger to somebody else.
And the experienced drivers in the Northeast do that. You know, they knock it off.
Northeast and all north of the country. Imagine anywhere like, you know, north of the Mason-Dixon line. Anywhere where there's snow probably has these rules.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Justin, the reason you don't call the judge miss is that it is disrespectful and it is sexist. You would never call a male judge mister. And because it happens to be a woman, you do not call a judge miss. There is a certain respect that you give judges. It is why they wear robes. It is why they are elevated. And it's not ego. It is done because this is what people listen to. There is authority there, and you respect the authority. Miss is both disrespectful and misogynistic. That'll do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.